I have no doubt that without me standing up to be counted, they would have had their lives destroyed. Mm-hmm. This issue would have been buried because Augusta, nobody even knew that job had existed. So I lost everything though I resigned from the police. I lost my income. I lost my career. I lost my mental health for a long time. My last day at work, I was unconscious on the floor because I was so ill and I couldn't make sense of it. And I just wanted the truth to be told. So I did a documentary with File on 4, thinking that would be it. The girls actually took part in that documentary, but the subject kind of wouldn't leave me alone. It followed me.
Yeah.
And then the drama team approached me and I ended up bringing on board everybody to make that drama. I was the program consultant. Then the drama is a drama, kind of doesn't tell the full truth. Mm-hmm. So I wrote a book because I wanted the facts to be there.
Yeah.
Not just a drama. I wanted the facts there. And then I thought I was completely worn out. We were like 8 years after I'd resigned then. And I thought, I can't do this on my own anymore. So I either walk away completely or I try and build a team that can carry on this legacy alongside me and then carry it on when I can't do it anymore. So I started my own charity, which was the Maggie Oliver Foundation. And that was in 2019. We've now helped over 4,000 survivors of abuse, and we are working on cases today with victims who are being failed today. Wow. The independent reviews, Andy Burnham, who's the Police and Crime Commissioner and the Mayor of Manchester, heard me spouting on the radio and on the TV after the drama. I'm sure he thought I was telling lies at the time, but he announced that there were going to be an independent review into the Manchester case and the Rochdale case. Both of those have officially concluded that I was telling the truth. Every single word I've said is the truth.
Vindicated.
I'm vindicated. And
Amazing.
More than that, the world knows it's the truth. And although last week there was a press conference when that report was published, and if anybody wants to go on to my, say, Twitter, it's Maggie Oliver UK. I've shared that press conference, and I heard the new chief constable saying, his words were, "As surely as night follows day, this wouldn't happen today." Well, I stood up and I said, it absolutely is happening today. And I'd been approached in the last month by an officer who is now resigned, who could have been me 10 years ago. So don't come with all that. This is going on.
Overconfidence every time that they have.
It's just pretending it's in the past. And my argument is, this isn't about the past. And unless you're honest about what is going on, from the foundation, we are taking cases to throughout the whole country. We're a national charity about police failures, about where victims are being fobbed off, about where they're being criminalised, where they're being arrested and silenced. We are a real voice for change, but it's based on current practices and multiple victims who, I've been saying, because everybody in the UK has seen this drama, Mr. Bates against the post office. Yes, yeah. I could be Mr. Bates, because in the foundation, we are pulling together all these voices of isolated victims who are being treated in the same way. We are spotting patterns and failures, and I've got no axe to grind except do your job properly.
Yeah.
Your job is to uphold the law. If you have a victim comes to you who has been raped on a daily basis, and I don't just mean grooming gangs, I mean victims of any kind of sexual crime. So violence against women and girls, an individual rape, a young man being abused. We only deal with sexual crime. But so many are getting a horrific service from a system which is completely broken. The complaint system is unfit for purpose. It is not independent.
Well, let me ask you, I've heard quite a lot that it's been said that they didn't want to offend the British Pakistani community.
Yeah.
And that was a big, because I know you mentioned the budgets and things, they didn't want to spend the money on the operations, but do you think there was an issue that they didn't want to offend?
I do think the ethnicity of the offenders, definitely back in 2005. And also when I first started out, I couldn't refer to these abusers as Pakistani Muslim men. I remember going on the Today programme with John Humphreys and really pushing the buttons or the boundaries, because it's the truth. It is the truth. But as I've said, that was definitely a big part of why the authorities tiptoed around it. I also believe that it is, as I've said, because these children were seen as an underclass, that they didn't matter, that who was going to, challenge the system, who's going to, fight for these kids. And if they did, they're so easy to dismiss.
This is a modern phenomenon whereby, this is just my opinion, but some people on the left have stopped caring about class and helping the working class. So they turned a blind eye to that, and then started caring in an inordinate amount about offending people, even if they might be abusers, whatever. I had Yasmin Mohammed on the show yesterday. She's an ex-Muslim who had a torrid childhood and difficult upbringing. She's fantastic, a wonderful speaker. And I told her I was speaking to you, and she knows the case. She's Canadian, but she knows about the case. And she said to say to you, and I'm sure you know as well, like, this is going on in Pakistan. She said this is being brought straight over here.
It has.
And those very men, she's not entirely sure about those particular men who were involved in that case in Rochdale, but often they will start there and they come over, and that's why it's so coordinated.
Yeah. I think there is a culture in the police that turns a blind eye. But I also feel within the Pakistani Muslim community that are involved in this kind of abuse, there is an attitude that the children they're abusing don't matter, that they are up for it, that they are, they're not Muslim children, that they are seen as an underclass, and that there is a word for it. They're out and they're even in the trial, in the Rochdale trial, the main abuser was called Shabir Ahmed, or Daddy was his nickname. And even in the trial, he stood up and he blamed the children and the families for letting the children go out at night at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night. Yeah. Well,
Kafir, is that the word?
Yes, it is.
Kafir.
It is that they are now. There are good Pakistani Muslim people. Many. Yeah. What I want to do is generate a conversation as to why does this happen, and without honesty about the fact that it is happening, and that it is so sophisticated now that the networks are really well developed. The children might be picked up in Rochdale, but they will be taken to Rotherham or Huddersfield or Birmingham, or it's all around the country. Why is that? And I would like to see the community itself begin to speak out very vocally that this is not acceptable. I'm no expert in religion. I'm not religious myself, but I do know that the Quran, depending on who you speak to, doesn't condone this, but others will say that it does. We are a multicultural country, and for me, it's very simple. If anybody comes to this country, they're entitled to their own religion, but they are not entitled to bring things that they may get away with in other countries to this country. We all abide by the same laws in the UK, and harsh as it might sound, if you're not prepared to do that, you don't live here. If I go to a different country, I have to respect their laws and their rules. I know I spend quite a lot of time in Turkey, and they have different rules than we do here, but I would never expect to override their laws by taking what I have to, what I believe from here.
I saw a stat saying that although British Asians, and that's the word they've used, unfortunately, and you've pointed out why that's not right. They
always do.
Pakistani Muslims, but it's British Asians make up 7% of the population, but 87% of convictions involving child exploitation involved British Asians. So, but they said, this was a commissioner report, you probably actually saw this at the time, to dwell on this data would be irresponsible.
And I categorically disagree with that. I would say that figure that you've said is actually double what it should be, because half of those people in that percentage are women.
British Asian. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So you would halve that.
So 3% of the population
Yes.
are British Asian men.
Yes. And they are
make up
responsible.
87%.
At least 87%, because I know there was an organisation, I can't the Quilliam Foundation, I think it was. But those you have to halve those.
Wow.
And the authorities have never collected ethnicity of the offenders. And in the foundation, we now do. But we're not a national statistical authority. But I would argue that the statistics are not collected because they would very clearly prove what you've just said. What I would say, and I always say it, that the vast majority of people in this country are white, British people. And I am not saying, and a great deal of the abuse in this country is carried out often within the family. But if you look at this particular kind of crime, which hasn't been addressed properly by the authorities, it is indisputable, in my opinion, that is the makeup of the offenders. And I want to see a national conversation about it, an honest one. And I want to know reasons why we don't address it. And we have to.